All right. Good morning, good morning. I know it's early, fairly early for me, and I wanted to go ahead and get started with this. I really don't go ahead and get started with reading the Bible readings for the home, and then try to figure some things out, get this taken care of, and then uh, I don't know, maybe I'll go and paint or something. So this is going to be the 14th one of me reading the book, or yeah, 14th. Yeah, 14th, because I have to remember where I'm at, and I'm trying to. And of course, I post this right after I um uh record it, and I post it at two different places. I uh, do it here on Spreaker, and then I do it also on Anchor or Spotify. So we have, well, sorry about that. I have two different places. I post the audio part at at the Loretta Nash Show, and then I also do it at Laura's blog. And Laura is spelled Lorgh. And my website is lorgh.blog, blog. So I'm paying for that, and that's where I post my artwork. I haven't done any in a couple of days because I've been kind of doing chores around the house and keeping and trying to straighten up a bit and everything, and I guess wallow in what I'm doing. I guess what I'm doing. And so I'm going to go ahead and just read this today. And it's early, and everything. And all I can say is, if you like to use this as a Bible study, go ahead. Apparently that's what this book is made for, is Bible study. And of course, these that I'm reading right now are pretty big chunks of stuff that are in this, and reading Bible reading in the home. Oh, I didn't know it had that in the back. Okay, it's got a lot, and it's got some pretty artwork in it that, I've watched this one guy um, take artwork, and, he copies it and fix it his way, and he's more using watercolor. He's drawing it and then he's coloring it like watercolor. But anyway, let me digress, and let me go ahead and let's get into the book. It says, the big blue headline says, making an image to the beast. Okay, then we have a minor subheading. It says, another beast appears. Okay, question: when was the papal head of the first beast of Revelation 13 wounded? Quote. Well, it says, it doesn't have a quote. It just says, in 1798, when the papacy was temporarily overthrown by the French under General Berthier. And it says, go to the preceding reading. Okay, then it has a question. Question: what did the prophet see coming up at this time? Quote: and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and spake like a dragon. Revelation 13:11. And then it's got a note. And then it says, John Wesley, in his note on Revelation 13:11, written in 1754, says of the two-headed horned beast, quote, He is not yet come, though he cannot be far off, for he is to appear at the end of the 42 months of the first beast, end quote. And it says exploratory notes upon the New Testament, 1791 edition, volume 3, page 299. The previous beast comes up out of the quote unquote sea, which indicates its rise among the people and nation of the world then in existence. Revelation 17:15. Whereas this latter power comes up out of the quote unquote earth, where there had not been peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, end quote. In 1798, when the papal power received its deadly wound, the United States, located in the Western Hemisphere, was the only great world power then coming into prominence in the territory not previously occupied by people, multitudes, and nations. Only 9 years this, quote unquote, in 1789, in brackets, not brackets, parentheses, the United States adopted its national constitution. It is within the territory of the United States, therefore, that we may look for a fulfillment of this prophecy. Okay, the eminent American preacher DeWitt Talmage based a sermon, quote, America for God, end quote, on the text of Revelation 13:11. Interpret the beast with two heads like a lamb as referring to the United States. Quote, it is remarkable, end quote, he said, quote, to suppose that God would leave out from the prophecies of his book the whole Western Hemisphere. No, end quote. See his 500 Selective Sermons, Volume 2, 1900, page 9. That's interesting. Okay. Question. What is the character of this new power? Quote, he had two horns like a lamb, end quote, verse 11. Note, how fittingly is the United States characterized in these words. The nation of the past, pictured in the Bible as a beast of prey, were filled with intolerance, persecution, and oppression. In sharp contrast, the United States was founded on the principles of liberty, equality, and tolerance. The men who had fled the tribulations of the old world were determined that those trials should not be repeated in the new. The principles of civic and religious liberty, which have made the United States great, were incorporated into the foundational law of the nation at its very founding. We quoted from the First Amendment that the Amendment to the Constitution, commonly known as the Bill of Rights, Article 1, quote, Congress shall make no law and respecting a establish of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech to or the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a readiness of grievance, end quote. Article 5, quote, Article 4. I gotta get my Roman numbers right. It's 4. Quote, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Article 5, quote, no person shall be, 3 subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life and limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor to be deprived of life, liberty, and or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken from for public use without just compensation. That's getting okay. Let me get here. I'll finish in here. For these principles, men have fought and died. For them, statesmen have vigilantly contend throughout the nation's history. For these liberties, millions today are ready to sacrifice even life itself. And then we go to this next subheadline. It says, the dragon's voice heard again. And it's got a question. Notwithstanding the lamb-like appearance of this power, what will ultimately happen? I'm going to turn the page. And it says, quote, and he spake as a dragon, verse 11. Okay, and then we got a long note. Note, the voice of the dragon is the voice of intolerance and persecution. It is repugnant to the American mind to think that religious persecution might mar the fair record of the nation founded on the liberty to all. But although the history of the country from its very founding, foreseeing statesmen have recognized that this tendency to enforce religious dogma by civil law is all too common with mankind, and is likely to break out in active persecution in unexpected places unless specifically guarded against. Said Thomas Jefferson at the very beginning of the national experience, quote, the spirit of the times will alter, our rulers will become corrupt or people careless. A single zealot may commerce persecution, and better men be his victim. End quote. Notes on Virginia. Quarry 17 in the works of Thomas Jefferson, and then it's got 4th edition, 1904 through '05, volume 4, page 81 and 82. Okay. In a letter to Rabbi Mordecai M. Noah, the same great American wrote, quote, "Your sect, by its suffering, has furnished a remarkable proof of the universal spirit of religious intolerance, inherited in every sect. Three dots. Our laws have applied the only antidote to the vice. Three dots. But more remains to be done. For although we are free by the law, we are not so in practice. Public opinion erects itself into an inquisition, and exercises its office with as much fanaticism, fanaticism as fans the flame of an auto defeat." End quote. Letter to Mordecai M. Noah, May the 28th, 1818. Thomas Jefferson Papers, volume 213, page 37 988, in Manuscript Division, Library of Congress. Ooh, big lot. Okay. To the honor of the nation, it should be said that noble statesmen have largely held in check the tendency which Thomas Jefferson foresaw working in the body politic. But no American can shut his eyes to the fact that parallel these noble efforts, zealous efforts, and been made by misguiding religious leaders to secure civil enforcement of religious usage. Okay. The next question is how much power will the beast exercise? Quote, "And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them that dwelleth therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed." Verse 12. Okay, and then we got another note. Note, quote, "the first beast before him," end quote, Papal Rome. See preceding reading. Exercise the power of persecuting all who differ from it in religious matters. Question. What means will be employed to lead the people back into false worship? Quote, "And deceiveth them that dwelleth on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in sight of the beast." Verse 14. Okay. Question. What will this power propose that the people do? What will this power propose the people to do? Quote, "saying to them that dwelleth on the earth, that they should make an image of the beast, which had been wounded by a sword, and did live." Verse 14. Note, the beast, quote, "which had the wound," by a sword and did live, import, in quote, is the papacy. That is a church dominating the civil power and a union of the church and state, enforce its religious dogma by the civil power, by conviction, confusion, confusion, okay, by confusion, imprisonment, and death. An image to this beast would be another ecclesiastical organization clothed with civil power, another union of the church and state to enforce religious law. Okay? And then we got it, and then now we're into another. This is kind of heavy. Okay, now we go into another subheadline, and it says Sunday Law Advocates. Okay? Did the history of the United States show that does the history of the United States show that religious organizations have attempted to secure legislative involving religion? Then it says organizations such as the National Reform Association, the International Reform Federation, the Lord's Day Alliance of the United States, and the New York Sabbath Committee have for years worked to secure Sunday legislation. They have often secured the aid of civil groups. And it's not a quote from the Bible, it's just giving you a fact. Okay. Question. What, according to this Constitution, is an avowed object of the National Reform Association? Okay. And it's got a quote, but it's not a verse. Okay. Quote. To secure such an amendment to the Constitution of the United States as well, indicated that this is a Christian nation and place all Christian law, institution, and usages of our government on an undeniably legal basis in the fundamental law of the land. End quote. David McAllister, The National Reform Movement, A Manual of Christian Civil Government, 1898 edition. Quote, Article 2 of the Constitution, end quote, page 1516. Note, the General Superintendent of the National Reform Association and the editor of the Christian Statesman propounds the following amendment to the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Quote, how to make a most dangerous weapon out of the hands of seculars. Yes, seculars. Amend the highest written law in the land, our federal Constitution, so that it shall plainly proclaim the will of the Lord of nations as the rule of our national life and the standards of our national conflict in dealing with all our problems, eternal and external, national and international. As that Constitution now stands, the secularist, secularist is predominant, perpetually quoting it from on his side, loudly proclaiming that there is in it nothing that warrants the Christian usage, and as loudly and persistently demanding that all these and their light shall go out of the latter, that is that in may be brought to perfect harmony with the former. Our answer should be never, but we will instead change the written document that in that it may be in perfect harmony with the unwritten, and so furnish an undeniable legal bias for all we have that is Christian in our national life and character, and also for more of its kind that is still needed. End quote. Christian Statesman, August 1921, page 25. Okay. At first glance, as the statement, such as the statement as this might worthily an endorsement, appear a worthy endorsement, but a closer examination reveals a reasoning basically the same as that employed by religious leaders of the past ages, who persecuted all who differ from them. If the law of the land should regulate religious observance, a man could be forced to attend church, to be baptized, or to pay for support of the clergy. Well, that, I don't know. It sounds not what we need. Okay, question. What has this association said? What has this association said on this point regarding the Catholic Church? Quote, and it's what they say. Okay, quote, we accordingly gladly recognize the fact that in Southern American Republic and in France and other European countries, the Roman Catholics are the recognized advocates of national Christianity and stand opposed to all the proposals of secularism. Three dots. Whenever they are willing to cooperate in resisting the process of political atheism, we will gladly join hands with them in a world conference of the promotion of national Christianity, which ought to be held at no distinct day. Many countries could be representing only many countries could be represented only by Roman Catholics. End quote. Editorial, Christian Statesman, and then it's got parentheses, official organ of the National Reform Association, end parentheses, December the 11th, 1884, page 2. It's given a lot of, apparently this is given a lot of stuff that's not in the Bible. Okay, question. Excuse me for a second. Okay. Question. What has the Pope commanded all Catholics to do in regard to government? Quote, first and foremost, it is the duty of all Catholics worthy of the name and wishful to be known as the most loving children of the Church. Three dots. To endeavor to bring back all civil society to the pattern and form of Christianity which we have described. End quote. And this is from the great encyclical letters of Leo the 13th. And it says, quote, encyclical letter Immortal D, November 1st, 1885, page 32. And then it says, note, on September the 7th, 1947, excuse me for a second, Pope Pius the 12th declared that, quote, the time for reflection and planning is past in religion and moral fields, and the time for action has arrived, end quote. He said that, quote, the battle in religious and moral fields hinge on 5 points: religious culture, the sanctifying of Sunday, the saving of the Christian family, social justice and loyalty, and truthfulness in dealings, end quote. Evening Star, Washington, D.C., September the 8th, 1947. On September the 21st, 1961, Pope John, in the audience with members of the labor union, asked for the proper observance of Sunday as the day of rest. Said the Pope, this, quote, purpose of changing the mind in society and the intervention of power of the state, end quote. Question. What is the object of the International Reform Federation? Quote, and this is not from the Bible. Quote, the Reform Bureau, brackets, now Foundation, is the first, quote, Christian lobby, end quote, established at our national capital to speak to government in behalf of all denominations, end quote. History of the International Reform Bureau, 1911, page 2. And it has a note. The security of compulsory Sunday legislation is one of the chief objects of this and other like organization. See pages 60 through 62 of the above named work. Okay, and a lot of this that I'm looking at, just scanning it, is all not in the Bible. And this is just the book giving information on it. Gotta get this fixed. Okay, question. What is the object of the Lord's Day Alliance? Okay, this quote, this organization proposed in every possible way to aid in preserving Sunday as a civil institution. Our national security requires the active support of all good citizens in the maintenance of our American Sabbath. Sunday law must be enacted and enforced, end quote. Quoted as, quote, principle contained in the Constitution, end quote, of the original organization, parentheses, then called the American Sabbath Union, in parentheses, cited in the Lord's Day Alliance 25th Annual Report, 1913, page 6. Um, yeah, sometimes when we would go down to visit my grandma in Mississippi, and there was a lot of, we would definitely go on Sunday. And most of the time when we went down there, there was a lot of places that were closed and as an observant for Sunday. But now that was in the 80s, the 70s and 80s, and around the 90s, everything's been open pretty much on Sundays too. Some places still are closed on Sunday, but and most of the church, especially when we went to Mississippi, visit my grandma or visit my daughter's grandma, uh, most of the Sundays, you can see the parking lots full of the churches. Okay, okay, let's get back to the book. That just thought just came in my head. Okay, let me get back to the book. Okay, question. What was one of the first objects stated by the Federal Council of the Churches of Christ in America, parentheses, preceding predecessors of the National Council of the Churches of Christ in the United States of America, in parentheses. And this is not in the Bible. Quote, that all encroachments upon the claim and the sanctities of the Lord's Day should be stoutly restricted through the press, the Lord's Day Association and Alliance, and by such legislations as may be secured to protect and preserve this bulwark of our American Christianity, end quote. Resolution passed in the first meeting of the Federal Council of the Churches of Christ in America, 1908. In its first bicentennial report, page 103. And then we got a note. Thus it will be seen that the securing of law for the enforcement of Sunday observance is a predominant feature in all these organizations in their efforts to Christianize, end quote, the nation. In doing this, may fail to see that they are repudiating the principles of Christianity, of Protestantism, and of the United States Constitution, and playing directly into the hand of that power which originated the Sunday Sabbath, the papacy. And then it also says more reading more later. in this book. Okay? It just says read. See the readings. Okay. Question. What argument has been offered for Sunday's law? Quote. And of course, this is not in the Bible. Quote. That the day might be devoted with the less interpretation to the purpose of devotion. End quote. That the devotion of the faithful might be free from all disturbance. End quote. August Ninder, Neander, A General History of the Christian Religion and Church, Tollery Translation, Third American Edition, Volume 2, page 301. Note: in the 4th and 5th century, Sunday shows and Sunday theaters, it was complained, hindering the quote devotion of the faithful, end quote, because many of the members attend them in preference to the church service. The church therefore demanded that the state should interfere and promote Sunday observance by law. Quote, in this way, quote, say Neander, quote, the church received help from the state for the furthering of her ends. And that's in Ebed, page 300 and 301. This union of church and state served to establish the papacy in power. A similar cause pursued now will produce the same result. And I think we're still in the quote. Okay. On the basis of assumption that the seventh day, set apart and established by the law, has been in some way superseded by the first day, recognized in the gospel, the good deal of hurtful legislation has been reacted on the pretext of sanctifying the Sabbath and honoring God. Men who readily do not better are men who really don't know better and are willing to wrest the scriptures and appeal to the popular ignorance in order to gain a point. Such conduct is unworthy of any good cause. This error has its origin in the iniquitous union of church and state, and is a relic of that oppressive system. In current usage, the so-called Sabbath legislation does not apply to the Bible Sabbath at all, but to the first day of the week. The practical effect of such legislation generally is to annul the derived commandments. Give me rewind. The practical effect of such legislation generally is to annul the divine commandment and puts it in place of human stature. This victorious assumption underlying as legislation is that divine law may be changed or amended by human enactment. In thousands of minds today, the law of God concerning the Sabbath day is rendering none effect by the so-called Sabbath legislation enacted by civil governments. Such legislation belittles the authority of Jehovah. J.J. Taylor's, who's a Baptist, has Baptist on it. J.J. Taylor, uh, parentheses, Baptist, the Sabbatic question. New York, Fleming H. Rival, 1914, page 51, 52, 58. And then it says, see pages in all these pages in the Bible reading for statements by writers of various denominations. So when I get down to it, they got some more stuff. Okay, now we go have another subheadline, and it says early and modern Sunday laws. And I do remember some of these laws, and some of them were incorporated in the family, and some was incorporated in where we live, and it seemed like everything changed about in the 90s or late 80s. I mean, I don't know, just things now we're kind of working 7 days a week, it seems. But some people do, close their business down and everything. And then on weekends they do other stuff. And I worked as a weekend warrior for a long time there. Because that's when we had, well, Sunday was kind of slow. But Saturday was our busy day. Friday and Saturday were our busy days. At the studio, whenever I was subbing, we get off on Saturdays and Sundays anyway. Okay, let's get back to the book. Early and modern Sunday laws. Okay. Question. Who is responsible for the present state Sunday law in the United States? And it's not a quote from the Bible. Quote, during nearly all our American history, the churches which influenced the state to make and improve Sabbath laws. End quote. W.F. Kraft in Christian Statesman, July the 3rd, 1890, page 5. Note, these Sunday laws are a survival to the complete union of church and state which exists at the founding of the colonies. Quote, such law brackets as the Maryland Sunday Law of 1723 in bracket were the outgrowth of the system of religious intolerance that prevailed in many of the colonies. End quote. A decision of the Court of Appeals of the District of Columbia, January the 21st, 1908, in Washington Law Reporter, February the 14th, 1908, page 103. The first Sunday law imposed on the American colony bracket Virginia 1610 in bracket required church attendance, and prescribed the death penalty of a third for the third offense. And then it's got bracket C. Peter Force tract related to the colonies in North America, 1844 edition, volume 2, volume 3, number 2, page 11. And actually, all this right here is getting me thinking about what I had to do at my college. They really want us, there were certain times of the day that we couldn't run the TV. We could do it in our room, but we couldn't do it in the regular, the communal place. We couldn't run the TV in during certain times. We couldn't get into the communal room on Sundays. We couldn't get into it until after 12. On Wednesday night, we couldn't do it from 9 until basically from 6 until 9. We couldn't on Wednesday. We couldn't do it. On Sunday night, we couldn't do anything from 6 until 8. That's what they said, what they had, and that's the rules at my college. But they will do it, and then they wanted you to go to Sunday service. What they would like since there was a chapel and actually the church, they wanted you to go down to the church and do Sunday services when they had it. I didn't do it because I was not of their faith and of the faith of the college. It's just that I didn't do it because I was getting it all day, and I was figuring I didn't have to because I was getting it all day. Well, I mean, we had chapel on Wednesday. We had chapel on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah, we did have chapel Monday, Wednesday, or Friday for an hour. And then, I'm on a campus that is a Christian campus. And, that was just me. And this right here just put all that in my mind. And that is weird. Let me get back to this thing that, so if you did not go 3 times, they would automatically, you get the death penalty. And that's in Virginia, and that was in 1610. And it was 1607 when Jamestown, 1607 when Jamestown. So just a thought. Okay, let me get back to the book. Okay. A question. Why is a national Sunday law demanded? Quote, and this is not in the Bible, quote, National Sunday legislation is needed to make the state law complete and effective, end quote, says its advocates. A quote, or note, the state law refers a religious day as relics of the union of church and state in colonial times, but the nation whose foundational principles of civil and religious freedom are aptly symbolized by 2 lamb-like horns does not exist. Quote, all the power of the first beast, end quote, and require men, quote, to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed, end quote, until it abandons its separation of church and state to the extent of enforcing religious requirements on a national scale, thus constituting an quote unquote image or likeness of the first beast. And then we go to we got another subheadline, and it says, the mark of papal authority. Quote, question, what does the prophet say the second ecclesiastical political power will attempt to enforce upon all the people? And yep, this is a Bible quote. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their hand and on their forehead, or in their forehead. Revelation 13:16. Note, the mark called in verse 17, quote, the mark, three dots, of the beast, end quote, is set over against the seal of God, in the book of Revelation. See Revelation 14:9 and 10, and also and further readings. Okay. Question, what means will be employed to compel all to receive this mark? Quote, and this is a Bible quote, quote, and that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Revelation 13:17. Note, that is, all who refuse to receive this mark will be boycotted, or denied the rights and privileges of business or trade, or the ordinary means of gaining a livelihood. Yep. Okay, question. Okay. What is claimed as the mark of papal authority? And then it says, the setting aside of the Sabbath given by God in the fourth commandment, the seventh day, and the substitution of Sunday by the authority of the Catholic Church. Note, keys, and it's keys with it, Q-U-E-S, have proved you that the brackets Roman Catholic in bracket Church hath power to command feasts and holidays and holy days. Oh, that's question. Okay, question. How prove you that the brackets Roman Catholic in bracket Church hath power to command feasts and holy days? Answer, by the act of changing the Sabbath to Sunday, which Protestants allow of, and therefore they fondly contradict themselves by keeping Sunday strictly and breaking most of their feast commandments by the same Church. End quote. Henry Tuberville, the book called A Abridgment of the Christian Doctrine, reprint 1833, page 58. The mark then of the papal power, the beast, see the previous reading, is the false Sabbath in opposition of God's true Sabbath. Okay, question. Okay, I'm going to break for a second and I'll see you back in a bit. Alright, sorry about that. It took longer than what I was thinking. So I'm guessing where I'm at. So I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'll do this one again. Okay, question. What special miracle is finally to be performed to deceive men and fasten them in deception? Quote, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Revelation 13:13. Note, in this time of Elijah, in the controversy over Baal worship, this was the test of as to who was the true God, the God that answered by fire. 1 Kings 18:24. Now in earth's last hour, as a counterfeit test, fire will be made to come down from heaven to confirm men a false worship. Okay, I may have skipped one. Yeah, I did. Before it, when I stopped off, I was at since the Sunday Sabbath originated with the Roman power. Wait, I didn't even read that one. Okay, so I stopped off at what is claimed as the mark of the papal authority. Okay, that's where I stopped off. Okay, I got distracted with something else, and let me get back to the book. Okay, the book actually says, and this is the question, since the Sunday Sabbath originated with the Roman power, the first be, to whom will men yield homage when, knowing the fact, they choose to observe Sunday instead of the Bible Sabbath in deference to compulsory Sunday laws? Quote, know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom ye obey. Romans 6:16. Note, quote, the observance of Sunday by the Protestants is an homage to pay, in spite of themselves, to the authority of the church, of the Catholic Church. Quote, Louis Seeger, in his book Plain Talk About the Protestantism of Today, 1868 edition, page 213. The conscientious observance of Sunday as the Sabbath on the part of those who hitherto have supposed it to be the Saturday has without doubt been accepted of God as Sabbath taking. It is only when light comes that sin is imputed. St. John 9:14, St. John 15:22, Acts 17:30. Okay, now we go to this question. What does Christ say about our duty to the state? Quote, render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar, and unto God the things that are God. Matthew 22:21. Note, the Sabbath belongs to God. Its observance uh, therefore should be rendered only unto him. Now we go to that question I started off this after this break was, what special miracle is finally to be performed to deceive men and fasten them in deception? Quote, and he doeth great works, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. Revelation 13:13. Note, in the time of Elijah, in the controversy over Baal's worship, there was a test to who was the true God, the God that answered by fire. 1 Kings 18:24. Now, in Earth's last hour, as a counterfeit test, fire will be made come down from heaven to confirm men in false worship. Okay, next question is, to what length will this affect to enforce the worship of the image of the beast be carried? Quote, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause decree that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Revelation 13:15. And then we have another subtitle in this section that says, God's people delivered. Question, what deliverance will God finally bring to his people in this controversy? Quote, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. Revelation 15:2. And I got two last questions. What song will they sing? Quote, and they sang the song of Moses, the servant of God, and they sang of the Lamb. Verse 3. And question, what was the song of Moses? A song of deliverance from oppression. And it says Exodus 15 is what it says. Okay. That's the end of that section. Now we're going to start a brand new one, which is called A Prophetic History of the Church. Okay. The sub-headline says the message of Revelation. Question. What title is given to the last book of the Bible? Quote, the revelation of Jesus Christ. Revelation 1:1. Question. To whom does things which are revealed belong? Quote, the secret things belong unto the Lord our God, but these things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever. Deuteronomy 29:29. Question, for what purpose was the revelation given? Quote, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. Revelation 1:1. Okay? Question. What great event, according to this book, is imminent? Quote, Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Verse 7. That's Revelation 1:7. Note, this book not only opens and closes with the subject of Christ's second coming, but its various prophecies reach down to this as the great culminating event to the church and the world. Question. What encouragement is given to study this book? Quote, Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Verse 3. And then now it says, the next sub thing says, the seven churches. To whom was the book dedicated? Question. To whom was the book dedicated? Quote, to the seven churches which are in Asia. Verse 4. Question. What were the names of these seven churches? Quote, What thou seest, write in a book, and send it to the seven churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and unto Samaria, and unto Pergamos, and to Thyatira, and to Sardis, and to Philadelphia, and to Laodicea. Verse 11. Note, John letters to, quote, the seven churches which are in Asia, end quote, were addressed to actual groups of Christian believers in the Roman province of Asia. These messages describe conditions existing in these churches in John's day and provide counsel appropriate to their particular needs. But because there were actually more churches in Asia, in quote unquote Asia, than the seven named, and because the number seven assures repeatedly in the Revelation in what is eventually a symbolic sense, these seven particular churches are to be understood as representative of the church as the whole, and the message addressed to them as acceptable also to the seven periods or states of the church reached from the first advent of Christ to the second. Throughout Scripture, the number seven, which used symbolically, is generally understood to indicate completeness. A study of history reveals that these messages are indeed applicable in special way to the seven successive periods that cover the entire history of the Christian church. Thomas Newton, although not himself holding this view, tells us that, quote, many content, and among them such learning men as More and Vitrina, that the seven epistles are prophetical of so many successive periods and states of the church from the beginning to the conclusion of all. End quote. The Dissertation of the Prophecies, 1804, Volume 2, page 167. The good qualities and defects of these churches are pointed out with admission, exhortations, and warnings suitable for each, all of which are also applicable to individual Christian experience. Question: by what title is the first state of the church distinguished? Quote: unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, Revelation 2:1. Note: Ephesus fitly symbolized the character and condition of the church in its first state, when its members received the doctrine of Christ in its purity, and enjoyed the benefits and blessings of the gifts of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. This message may be thought of as applicable to the first century, or approximately the lifetime of the apostles. And then it says, see Uriah Smith, the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation, page 361 through 368. Okay. Question: after commending this church for their good works, what change did the Lord bring against it? What charge did the Lord bring against them? Quote: nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Remember therefore from whence thou art fallen, and repent, and do the first works. Verse 4 and 5. Note: the quote-unquote first love is the love of truth and the desire of making it known to others. The quote-unquote first works are the fruit of this love. Okay? Question: what name is given to the second state of the church? Quote: unto the angel of the church of Smyrna write, on Smyrna, Samaria, Smyrna, Smyrna, right? And that's in verse 8. Smyrna, Smyrna, Smyrna. Okay, note: the name Smyrna is thought by some to mean mirth, or sweet-smelling incense. The message addressed to Smyrna may be thought of as applicable to the period of time when many of the saints of God suffered martyrdom under pagan Rome during the 2nd and 3rd and early 4th centuries. So Samaria or Smyrna. Okay. Question: how is the closing period of the tribulation of the church during this time referred to? Quote: fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. But that be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Verse 10. Note, okay, the most severe of the persecutions under the pagan Rome was under the Empress Diocletian from AD or CE 303 to 313. Okay. Question. What name is given to the third state of the church? Quote, to the angel of the church in Pergamos, write. Verse 12. And it's Pergamos, yeah. Note, Pergamos, which was built on a lofty hill, fittingly represent that period following Constantine's conversion into to the setting up of the papacy with its seat of authority in Rome. During this period, the church, which formerly, quote, had not where to lay its head, is raised to sovereign authority in the state, enters into the prerogations of the pagan priesthood, grows rich and powerful, end quote, but at the time, quote, received unto her bosom vast deposits of foreign material from the world and from heathenism, end quote. Philip Scaife, History of the Christian Church, Volume 3, Scribner's 1902, page 5. Among the heathen rites and ceremonies previously introduced into the Christian religion was the heathen festival Sunday, or Sun's Day, then established by law, resulting in the first day of the week taking the place of the Sabbath of the Bible. Boy, it's very bitter about that, isn't it? This book is. Okay. And I guess this must be Sabbath. 7-day evangelists. I know them. Okay. Question. How was the faithful of the church commended? Quote, and I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days whereupon Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelt. Verse 13. Note, there is a good reason to believe that quote unquote Antipas refers to a class of persons rather than a individual, for no reliable information concerning such a person is now or been found in any authentic early church histories. So it's a group of people. Question. What title was given to the fourth state of the church? Quote, and unto the angel of the church of Thyatira write. Verse 18. Thyatira. 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 Okay, note. Thyatira symbolized the condition of God's people during the long, dark period of papal supremacy and persecution connected with the 1260-year prophecy. During the time, millions of the saints of God were put to death in the most cruel manner that wicked men and demons could invent. Christ referred to this time in his wonderful prophecy recording in Matthew 24. In these words, quote, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elders' sake, those days shall be shortened." End quote. The tribulation of the 1260 years was cut short through the influence of the Reformation. Okay. Popping all over. Body parts. Oh. I don't have very much cartilage. And if I get stuck in one place, I have to pop it to get it loose. Okay. Question. What promise did God leave to these persecuted ones? Quote, "But that which ye have already hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my Father." Revelation 2:25 through 27. By what name was the fifth state of the church addressed? Quote, "And unto the angel of the church of Sardis write." Revelation 3:1. Note, Sardis was admonished to, quote, "be watchful and strengthen the things which remain," end quote, verse 2. At that time, the great tribulation of the people of God was at an end, but it was only a result of the Reformation that any of God's people were left remaining. See Matthew 24:21, 22, and note under Thariah. The Sardis church may be thought of as representing the Reformed churches during the time of the Reformation and onward. Okay. Question. What enduring title was given to the sixth church? Quote, "And to the church and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write." Revelation 3:7. Note, Philadelphia means, quote unquote, brotherly love. The message addressed to it may be thought of as applying to the church during the Advent Awakening from the late 18th century to the opening of, quote, "the hour of his judgment," end quote, in 1844. What words to the church show the second event near. Quote, Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Verse 11. Okay. Next question. What is Christ's message to the last church? Quote, And unto the angel of the church in Laodicea write, three dots, I know thy works, that thou art neither hot nor cold, three dots, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, three quotes. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed. Three dots. As many as I love, I rebuke and chastise. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. Verse 14 and 19. Okay, and it's got a note. It says, some think that the word Laodicea signifies, quote, the judgment of the people, end quote, or according to Cruden, quote, a just people, unquote. This church exists in the time of the judgment and the proclamation of the final warning message preceding Christ's second coming. See Revelation 14, 6 through 16, and the readings on the previous pages. This time of great profession, this is a time of great profession, with but little vital godliness and true piety. Okay, now we have the last one in this section, mini headline, the Savior's invitation. Question, what encouragement is given to heed this message? Quote, And behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and come to the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him and he with me. Revelation 3 and 20. Note, the pointed searching message to the seven churches contain most important lesson of domination, encouragement, and warning of all Christians in all ages. The seven promises to the overcomer found in this line of prophecy. Revelation 2, 7, 11, 17, 26 through 28, Revelation 3 and 5, 12 and 21. With the eighth or universal promise recorded in Revelation 21, 7, form a galaxy of promises as precious, as comforting, and as inspiring as any record in the scripture. And then it says, see more pages later. Okay, so that's that for that section. Okay, now we got the next one. Excuse me. Oh, I can stretch a bit. And pop some of my knuckles and joints and stuff. Okay, so that was heavy about the 7 churches, right? And do you remember them? I have to look at it to remember. Okay, so the 7 churches, let me scan real quick to find it. I have to go back a few pages. Okay, the 7 churches of Asia: Ephesus, Samaria, or Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And I've always heard their names, and I did a set of drawings of my version of what with my little character. And I got them somewhere in here, in amongst my studio stuff. Okay, the next big blue headline in this book says, "The Book with 7 Seals." Okay, we have a sub-headline that says, "The Sealed Book." Question: what did John the Revelator see in the right hand of him who sat on the throne? Quote, "And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals." Revelation 5:1. Okay. What did the Lamb do with this book? Question: what did the Lamb do with this book? Quote, "And he came and he took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne." Verse 7. Question: why was Christ declared worthy to open these seals? Quote, "Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation." Verse 9. Now we go into the next subheadline that says, opening the seals. Question: what was shown upon the opening of the first seal? Quote, "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, a white horse, and he that sat upon it had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer." Revelation 6:1-2. Note: the 7 seals delegated the experiences through which the church was to pass from the beginning of the Christian era to the second coming of Christ. The white horse with his rider going forth to conquer fittingly represents the early Christian church in its purity, going into all the world with the gospel message of salvation. A fit emblem of the church triumphant in the first century. Okay. Question: what appearance upon the opening of the second seal? Quote, "And when he had opened the second seal," "there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword." Verses 3 and 4. Okay. Note, as the whiteness of the first horse denotes the purity of the gospel which its writer propagates, so the color of the second horse, which showed that corruption had begun to creep in with this symbol applies. It is true that such a state of things did succeed the apostolic church. Speaking of the 2nd century, James Warley says, quote, Christianity began already to wear the garb of heathenism, the seeds of most of those errors that afterwards so entirely overran the church, marred its beauty, and tarnished the glory, were already beginning to take root, end quote. In the book Sketches of the Church History, 1840, page 39. Okay, quote, the mighty Catholic Church was little more than the Roman Empire baptized. Rome was transformed as well as converted. Christianity could not grow up through Rome's civilization and paganism, however, without in turn being colored and influenced by the rites, festivals, and ceremonies of the old polytheism. Christianity not only conquered Rome, but Rome conquered Christianity. It is not a matter of great surprise, therefore, to find that from the 1st to the 4th century, the church had undergone many changes. End quote. A.C. Flick, in his book The Rise of the Medieval Church, Pittam, 1909 edition, page 148, 149. Okay. Next question is, what was the color of the symbol under the 3rd seal? Quote, and when he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. He that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Verse 8. Note, the quote unquote black horse fittingly represent the spiritual darkness and degeneracy that characterized the church from the time of Constantine till the establishment of papal supremacy in AD or CE 538. Of the condition of things in the 4th century, Philip Scaife says, quote, but the elevation of Christianity as the religion of the state presents also an opposite aspect to our contemplation. It involved great risk of degeneracy to the church. The Christianization of the state amounts, therefore, in great measure to a paganized and secularized of the church. Paganizing and secularization of the church. Three dots. The mass of the Roman Empire was baptized only with water, not with the Spirit and fire of the gospel, and is smuggled and it smuggled heathen manners and practices into the sanctuary under a new name. End quote. In the book A History of the Christian Church, Volume 3, Scribner's 1902 edition, page 93. Okay, you see my numbers when I start to get tired, my numbers flip on me. And it's been doing this lately, especially when I get older. But it just flips on me. Okay. Question: what were the color and character of the fourth symbol? Quote, and when he had opened the fourth seal, three dots, behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell, and brackets, Greek Hades, and the grave, in brackets, followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Verses 7 and 8. A fourth part. I thought it was a third part. But I need to remember. And it does have a note. Okay. The original denotes the pale horse or yellowish color of blighted plants, and unnatural color for a horse. The symbol eventually refers to the works of the persecution and death carried on by the Roman Church against the people of God from about the time of the beginning of papal supremacy in AD or CE. The AD is actually in the book. I just put the C. The CE 538 to the Reformation. Question: on opening the fifth seal, what was seen under the altar? Quote, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Verse 9. Note: this is a view of the martyr victims of papal persecution from the 6th century to the time when the persecuting power of the papacy was restrained. Question: what were these martyrs represented doing? Quote, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell upon the earth? Verse 10. Note: their cruel mistreatment cried for vengeance, just as Abel's blood cried to God from the ground. Genesis 4 and 10. They were not in heaven, but under the altar, where they had been slain. On this, Adam Clarke says, quote, the altar is upon earth, not in heaven, end quote. And then it goes, see the next note about the martyrs. Question. What was given to the martyrs? Quote, and white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren should be killed as they should be fulfilled brackets or were fulfilled in brackets. Revelation 6:11. Note: these have been slain during the centuries covered by the preceding seal. Their persecutors, most of them at least, had died, and if they had a death passed to their punishment, as is by one supposed, why should the martyred ones still importune, still importune for their punishment? In this, as other parts of the Bible, the figure of personalization is used, in which inanimate objects are represented as alive and speaking, and things that are not as though they were. See Judges 9, 5 through Judges 9, 8 through 15. These martyrs had gone down as heretics under the darkness and superstitions of the preceding seal, covered with ignominy and shame. Ignominy and shame. Now, this is light of the Reformation. Their true chapter appears, and they are seen to have been righteous, and hence are given white robes. Quote, the fine linen, brackets, white robe, is the righteousness of saints, end quote. Revelation 19:8. Righteousness is ascribed to them, and when they had rested a little longer where they are under the altar, till all others who are to die for their faith have followed them. Then together they will be raised to immortality. It should be noted further that the first 6 of the 7 seals depict events taking place on earth, not in heaven. The altar at whose base the souls of these martyrs lie is the altar on which they were sacrificed for their faith. It is sufficient to point out that they were slain on earth, not in heaven, and that there were no altar of sacrifice in heaven. Question. What was first seen on the opening of the 6th seal? Quote, and I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. Revelation 6:12. Note: following the event of the 5th seal, and preceding the sign next mentioned, comes a great earthquake, commonly identified as the Lisbon earthquake. Quote, the Lisbon earthquake, which occurred on November the 1st, 1755, is the most notable earthquake in history, end quote. And that's according to this book, Nelson's New Loose Leaf Encyclopedia, Book Production Industries, Inc., article Earthquake. Okay, said Charles Lyell, Level, yeah, Lyell, Level, quote, a violent shook throughout the greater part of the city. In the course of about 6 minutes, 60,000 persons perished. The sea first retired and laid the bar dry. It then rolled in, raising 50 feet or more above its ordinary level. 3 dots. The area over which this convulsion extended is very remarkable, end quote. And it's in the book Principles of Geology, 11th edition, 1872, volume 2, page 147 and 148. In the book of Encyclopedia Britannica, 1945, estimates the death at the lower figure, but says that the efforts of the quake, which was felt from Scotland to Asia Minor, at that and that the destructive feature of the Lisbon earthquake was the agitation of inland lakes and streams far beyond the described area. In Italy, Switzerland, Great Britain, Sweden, and Norway. Parentheses. Article Lisbon and earthquakes. That's interesting to look that up. Google that. Okay. Question. What was to follow the great earthquake? Quote, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Verse 12. Note, May the 19th, 1780 is known in history as, quote, dark day, end quote. The obstruction extended the observation extended in various degrees over New England, and into New York. Newspapers said that a smoky haze of continuous forest fires, which had been noticeable for several days, combined with the heavy clouds to produce an unaccountable darkness from about 1 a.m. until past midnight, after which time the moon and stars reappeared. Quote, there was the appearance of midnight at noonday, end quote. And in the evening, throughout, although the moon was just past full, quote, perhaps it was never darker since the children of Israel left the house of bondage, end quote. In connection with this extraordinary phenomenon, the moon was reported to appear red. The cause was disputed, for the forest fires seemed insufficient to explain such an extensive darkness, and the exact cause been, has never been settled. Um, paragraph, I mean, parentheses, letter signed, quote, Victor, 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 end quote, in Independence Chronicle, Boston, May 25th, 1780, page 2. See also the Pennsylvania Evening Post, Philadelphia, June 6, 1780, page 62. For further exclamation, read on in this book. That's what this says. Okay. Question. What other event is mentioned under this seal? Quote, and the stars of heaven fell to earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken by an almighty wind. Verse 13. Note, when the scripture mentions stars falling, it eventually means what even an astronomer refers to as quote unquote falling stars or meteors. Within a little over a half a century following the most notable darkening of the sun and moon, a number of stars occurred, but, quote, probably the most remarkable of all, the meteoric showers that had even occurred, was that of the Leonis on November the 12th, or 12/13, 1833. End quote. Brackets, Charles A. Young, his book Manual of Astronomy, 1902, section 532, in parentheses, when, quote, a tempest of falling stars broke over the earth, North America bore the brunt of its pelting, end quote. Parenthesis, Agnes M. Clark, in their book, A Popular History of Astronomy in the 19th Century, 1885 edition, page 369. In parentheses. A witness reported, quote, this language of the prophet has always been received as metaphor. Yesterday it literally fulfilled, three dots. As no one before yesterday had convinced to be possible that it should be fulfilled. Three dots. Were I to hunt through nature for a simile, I could not find one so adapt to illustrate the appearance of the heavens as that which St. John used in this prophecy. Three dots. They were what the world understands by the name of quote falling stars, end quote. Three dots. The falling stars did not come as if from several trees shaken, but from one. These which appeared in the east fell towards the east. Those which appeared in north fell towards the north, and those which appeared in the west fell in the west, and those which appeared in the south, uh, parentheses, for I went out of my residence in the park, in parentheses, fell toward the south, and they fell not as the ripe fruit falls, far from it, but they flew, they were cast like the unripe fruit, which at first refuses to leave the branches, and then it does break its hold, flies swiftly straight off, descending, and in the multitude fall, come across the tracks of others, as they are thrown with more or less force. End quote. Eyewitness account in the New York Journal of Commerce, Volume 8, number 534, Saturday, November the 16th, 1883. And then it says, see, the next page is coming up. Question. What is the next event mentioned in the prophecy? Quote, and the heaven departed like a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their place. Verse 14. Okay, note. This event is still future and will take place in connection with Christ's second coming. We are now standing between two events. The last of the signs in heaven, and the parting of the heavens and revealing of earthly things out of their place. The great sign here mentioned, which marks the approach of Christ's second coming and the dissolution of all earthly things, are all in the past, and the world waits the sound of the last trumpet as the closing scene of the earth's drama. Question. How will the great event affect the world? Quote, and the kings of the earth, and great men, and rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondsman, and every free man, hid themselves in dens and in rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Verses 15 through 17. Question. After the sealing work in Revelation 7, which takes place under the sixth seal, how is the seventh seal introduced? Okay, quote, and when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about a space of a half an hour. Revelation 8:1. Note, okay, the sixth seal introduced the events connected to the second coming of Christ. The seventh seal must naturally, therefore, would refer to that event or some accompanying result of it. When Christ comes, all the holy angels will accompany him. Matthew 25:31. And it follows that silence with necessary, therefore reign in heaven during their absence. A half an hour of prophetic time would be about 7 days. The seven seals, the seven seals, therefore, bring us down to the second coming of Christ. Okay, and I think I'm going to stop right here because that's a lot to digest, especially when my horrible reading and all. So I'm going to stop in this episode in this time because I want to, and this is my show, and I can, or this is not my show. This show is just something that I want to do as I read this book, and it looks like we're almost halfway in the book. But I'm getting ready to go now, and all I want to say is if you don't have means to a book, you can purchase one. Of course, you can purchase it online. You don't have to don a Christian or a Bible bookstore. You don't have to. I've seen them up here at Walmart too. So you can just, if you don't want no one to know that you got one, and just read it for yourself. I'm just giving you what this book has, and it seems like this book is sounds more similar to 7-Day Evangelist. It's got a lot of stuff that I remember. I didn't go to the Seventh-day Evangelist church, but my little brother has. He liked going there, and so he would go on Saturdays. He don't go as much, or I don't know if he does or not, but and a lot of it talks bad about the papacy and everything. But see, when I took New Testament in college, we all, even the Protestant religion, which is what I'm part of, has basics of the Catholic, but it was the small c. This is the small c? Yeah, the small c. I think that's what my professor said. Anyway, gonna do this other thing for a minute. And all I want to say is keep me and my daughters in prayers, and my parents and my brothers, and just keep us in prayers, and my church, or all churches, because remember, and anything that drops, the water can be perfectly smooth, but you can throw one stone in it and it will ripple out and the bottom will change. Still will change. Um, that is something I always remember. Anyway, I'm going to stop here and post this, and just if you like it, give me thumbs up and all this subscribe and everything. And I don't know if I want to start doing videos again of me painting or what, but see what happens, because I'm trying to test everything as I go. Um, help pray unspoken prayer. You don't know what it is, and only God knows, and He will provide it. I know He will, and everything will be as it is. For He will provide what is needed, and I'm going to say that out loud because I know He will provide what is needed. Just I don't know what it's going to be, and or how's it going to come, and that's basically it. And I'll see you in when I read 15. I'll fix it up and read it and everything, and start off on this new uh, one. And that's it. Talk to you later.